Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man. At your services. How are you all? We're doing very, very well. Now, there's a colour out of space. There's a haunter in the dark. There's a shadow over Innsmouth. And yes, there's something very fishy going on in Stuart Gordon's 2001 adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's Dagon. Well, it's Dagon and Shadow over Innsmouth. Dagon was a very, very short story, and Shadow over Innsmouth was a little bit longer, and this film kind of is more an adaptation of that. But Stuart Gordon made his name with Reanimator, From Beyond. We're playing its score right now, and was a massive devotee of H.P. Lovecraft. As are we all. He's a horror supremo. But you know, the eldritch flavoured stories of the old ones, the elder gods and all that, the ancient ones, things from beyond the cosmos, things from the void, things from the abyss. Well, this film, Dagon, is about things from the abyss. Yeah, the deep blue, the briny deep blue sea. And it's a little scene movie, and it's really unfortunate because this is actually a great little bit of pure horror hokum. Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner worked together over many, many movies, and Stuart Gordon suddenly found he was a bit of a doyen of European cinema. He went there to do things like Castle Freak as well, and he went to a little secretive part of Galicia, which is Spain, and it was a coastal town, very picturesque during the sunshine and in the daytime, but when it's overcast and raining, like when they filmed it in October, it takes on a whole new menacing, foreboding, terrifying atmosphere of pure, dread. Perfect for this sort of story. And of course, the story revolves around a rural enclave of people who've been fishing for centuries, and then the fish sort of dry up. And they turn to God. God, please, give us some fish, please. And then God doesn't do anything. And then another old sailor comes in and says, no, we don't need God. We should pray to Dagon. And Dagon is a seafaring deity. He's actually in the Bible. So, they've written about him in the best books, not just H.P. Lovecraft. And he was worshipped by minions who were involved in ritualistic slaughter and sacrifices. And they would all wear fish heads. So, yeah. But Dagon, as far as Lovecraft is concerned, is one of the old ones. He's been meddling down in the deep, making shoggoths and other stuff like that. And he's still down there. So this little enclave, they turn their backs on God and they welcome in Dagon. But Dagon likes to have sacrifices and he wants to create more of his own minions. So gradually, over the years, all the people in this little town have gone very fish-like. Very, very strange. So into this environment we have a young couple who have just made a fortune. I don't know how. They're on a yacht with another couple, an older couple, and they're obviously partying and having fun. And Paul Marsh, played by Ezra Godden, who had just done Band of Brothers before he made this, he's made a killing. I'm not sure how. He's got a vintage laptop there, and he's determined to work out how his stock's doing. Should he buy? Should he sell? What should he do? Got to protect his assets. But his exceptionally gorgeous girlfriend, called Barbara, played by, hang on a second, Raquel Morono. I want to make love here, and you're just looking at your laptop. A lot of people can't make love because the only way they can make love is by looking at the laptop, if you know what I mean. Grabs the laptop, runs on the deck and throws it in the bloody sea. So he's like, what are you doing? Anyway, whilst on the deck, cavorting around, they hear strange ghostly chanting, and they looks across the sea. Oh, and there's this lovely little picturesque little fishing hamlet I just told you about. And that's interesting. Should we go over there? But as they're watching, an enormous CG black cloud appears over this little enclave, and next thing they are lashed by a ferocious storm which drives them onto the rocks, causing the other couple, the poor woman and the other couple, is down below decks. She gets her leg caught against the rocks and the ripped up hole in the hull of the boat, and she's trapped there as water's coming in. So her fella, Howard, goes down to look after her, and the other two scrapping and squabbling like mad. But they are our two main cast members. They take their little rowboat and off they go to try and get help from the village. The boat also gets a hole in it. They've got to bailing it all out. They finally get to the jetty, but this town's deserted. Where the hell is everyone? You know, what's going on? And there's all this chanting going on. It's in the local church. So up they go to the church, open the doors, and chanting stops immediately. And there's no one there. What? And then suddenly a priest appears. And they're like, look, our friends are in trouble. The boat's sinking. You know, her leg's trapped. We need a doctor. We need police. We need Royal Marines. We need air sea rescue. We need everything. We need Aquaman. He says, okay, all right. Well, in a very broken English, because he's mainly speaking Spanish, or a Galician version of Spanish. And which is a great thing about the movie, is that most of the cast are from that region, so they are speaking in a very guttural, sort of squeaky, sort of weird hybrid, sort of barked language, and you kind of, what did he say there? What was that? And it works. So they're going to split up. You know how these things go. Another fishing boat suddenly arrives with two very pale-faced fishermen with their faces actually mostly wrapped up and big bulbous eyes. I mean, I've already said kind of what the secret of the town is. They're fish people. That's what they are. But anyway, Paul goes off with them to go and rescue the others, while Barbara stays behind to call the police, wait for a doctor, wait for their friends to resurface. So this priest says to it, go and stay in the local hotel. Up the road there, go and stay in the hotel. But as he points, she spots that he's got webbed fingers. No. So she goes to the hotel. She encounters this incredibly bizarre and also very brilliant hotel proprietor who says nothing at all, just stares at you. Very menacing, but just stares blankly. Again, these people don't blink. They don't blink at all. And she notices, he has got these strange little slits in the side of his throat. No, they couldn't be, could they? No. What? Gills? Anyway, the priest and the hotel proprietor suddenly grab her and they abduct her. Next thing, we're back with Paul on their mate's boat, and they've gone down below, but there's no one there. But there is some blood down there, and a lot of sort of black filth, scummy filth, but they're not there. So he gets back on the fisherman's boat, comes back to the little town. Right, where's my girlfriend? Oh, she's gone off to get the doctor and the police. It's only a few kilometres away, she'll be back soon. Why don't you go and stay in the hotel? So he does the same thing that she just did. He goes up there, again thinking it's a bit strange, and he sees the gills on this guy's face, but he sees his girlfriend's lighter on the table, and they've already had a sort of confrontation about her smoking. So all of a sudden, he's got the lighter, what's going on? I want a room, and this guy is just staring at him for ages, just stares at him. Finally gives him a key. He's going, roomo, please-o. Gets the keys to this room, up he goes, and it's the most hideous friggin' room you've ever seen. It is scum-ridden. Oh, I forgot to say, that storm is still raging. And this is a film where you are going to get wet. You are, because the screen drips. It is raining absolutely incessantly. And everything is soaking wet. It's squalid, it's rank, it's dismal, it's covered in a film of just yick and ugh. But it's great at the same time. So he gets into this room and the windows are leaking. There's sort of scum all over the bed. Don't ask about the bathroom and the toilets. Ooh. Anyway, so he's sitting there and he's thinking, where is she? It's a bit odd this. And this bloody rain is still coming down. Even though he's inside, he's still getting drenched. So he opens the windows and looks outside, and there's all the townsfolk milling about, and it's night time now. They're on the little cobbled streets in the square, and they all got like sou'westers on, but they're all like making strange clickety-clacking noises, gibbering, and sort of like fish speak. He's watching from the balcony, and he suddenly look up and he see him. Oh fuck! Shit! And they all come in. They storm the hotel. So you have this really bizarre sequence where he's trying to lock the door. He's got a key to get in, but once he's on the inside, he doesn't think to lock it from the inside. And they're coming down the hall. He can hear all the footsteps coming outside his room. There's another door. There's some connecting doors to other rooms and stuff. And it's a little flimsy little latch lock, little bolt like that. So he's got his little pen knife, his Swiss Army knife. So he unscrews while they're pounding on the door. He unscrews this little lock and then screws it on to the other door in the place where there was a little patch where a lock obviously had been. And he's screwing that on. He's taking his time doing it. And this little tiny lock actually does hold them back for a bit. But they do get through. He gets into another room. He shuts that door. He's pulling wardrobes across to try and barricade himself in. But they're coming in everywhere. So in the end, he takes a massive leap out of the window, plummets down through a glass ceiling, a glass roof, into what we swiftly discover is a very horrible place, where things like, skinned faces are hanging up. There's pigs and stuff in there, but there's human carcasses too, or rather just the flesh. People have been skinned. Oh dear. And he recognises Howard from the boat, the people we barely even met earlier on. So they were whisked off the boat previously and brought there, and they've been butchered. But where's the woman? What was her name? Was it Vicky? I don't know. Why am I asking you? I don't know. Vicky. Let's call her Vicky. But he still can't find Barbara. So he then goes on a massive escape and evasion through this, well, I would say lovely, because as I say, during the daytime, apparently the place is so picturesque and beautiful. But of a night time, and especially when it's in a deluge of rain, and it's that time of year, it looks so spooky and melancholy and foreboding. And he's running up and down these streets. He's hiding in like doorways, barricading himself in places like cellars. But the mob are coming after him everywhere he goes. The mob seem to be there. And he's took a bit of a battering. When he took that little fishing boat out to his mates on the yacht, he accidentally put his hand onto a fish hook and had to pull the fish hook out of his palm. He's been beaten by the mob. He's took a plunge through a glass roof. So his leg's done in. He's having a bit of a hard time. And he's missing his girlfriend. And, you would miss her, because she is spectacularly gorgeous. So, whilst he's hiding away, he comes across another denizen of this little area, who's not one of the fish people. And it's a very old fisherman, a very old guy, grizzled. He's drinking all the time, but he's terrified. And he gets the story out of him. This is a guy called Ezekiel, and he is played by Francisco Rabal, who was in the film Sorcerer, which I reviewed a while ago. And he's great. He's got a scarred face, and I said about the voices and the accents. He, although drunk and supposedly loco, he tells our hero the backstory of this little town, this fishing village, how they turn their backs on God, and Dagon made his appearance there, and the cult of all these people wanting to become Dagon disciples took off, and how people that arrive there don't leave, but why haven't they killed you? Why haven't they sacrificed you? Why aren't you one of these fish people? Well, because I'm loco, I'm drunk, they don't want me. Well, but you get this lavishly photographed flashback backstory to what happened to the village and what happened to his parents when he was a little lad, when all this began to suddenly take over the town. But one thing about his voice, he's a great actor. Sadly, he died shortly after making this movie. He had an attack of emphysema on a plane, come back from, I think, Montreal, from a film festival there. The plane was diverted into France, but they couldn't save him. So the film Dagon is actually, it's dedicated to him at the end anyway. And he was a massive H.P. Lovecraft fan. And although he was a big star in Spain and in Europe, no one knew he was into Lovecraft, and it was a very unexpected sort of gig for him to take this kind of movie on, gore fest, a horror fest, and he loved it. But sadly, he didn't last too much longer after he made it. But the thing about his accent is, and it works, is you can barely understand a sodding word he says. So you're like Paul. You're trying to, what was that? Trying to make sense. A fish god? They turning into fish? What? And it's like, and Paul has this sort of running gag. There's two possibilities, which is all about sort of destiny. What path do you take? And he says it a hell of a lot throughout this movie. There's two possibilities here, and which way you're going to go. What are you going to do? What's the choice you're going to make? And the point that Stuart Gordon is making, and backing up what H.P. Lovecraft wrote, is that you can't change destiny. Doesn't matter what you do. You're governed by your genes, your DNA. You're governed by fate. You're governed by a lot of things, the cosmic entities from the void. So it doesn't matter what you do. At best, in a Lovecraft story, you can only draw. You can never win, and that's this is what you're dealing with here. But so Paul gets this story and he asks, well, what happened to the women? And he's telling her, they were killed. They killed them. I go, bastards. So anyway, the two of them sort of scarper off because he's saying there's got to be a car here somewhere. Someone must have a car. And there's a car. There's a great big chateau. Oh, don't get your hopes up. It's a dilapidated mess as well. But it's up on the hill. So they go up there and they see this car pull up. And the driver's all hunched over and got a limp because he's a fish man. And whoever's in the back of it can't walk very well. And it's in some kind of wheelchair frame type thing. But anyway, our friend Ezekiel does his drunk act and tries to distract the two fish henchmen. And so Paul can get in the car. And Paul's trying to hotwire the car. And he fucks up and the two wires makes the horn go. So the fish people turn, wow! And he manages to leg it out and get into the house. Whereupon he meets Uxia. Uxia is played by, hang on a second, Macarena Gomez. Hey, Macarena. And she's gorgeous. And she's also the girl of his dreams. We've already seen the opening of the movie is a dream sequence where Paul is underwater, scuba gear, and he finds this huge sort of reliquary. That's a tough word to say when you've had a few whiskies. This huge sort of underwater temple with the Dagon sort of symbolism carved into it. And as he's probing into that, suddenly this beautiful pale face of this gorgeous girl appears, and he's taken aback, and she pulls the goggles off him, and she leans forward, and her mouth becomes this huge shark, jaws like that, in a rather poor but very brief shot of CG. But we learn he's been having that same dream about her repeatedly, and it's her in the bed, and he's being chased as well. So, but she's kind of pleased to see him. She's going like, shh, don't tell him I'm here. And the door opens and a fishy person comes in. But she's obviously got some kind of command here. She's got power and authority. And she says, oh no, but in whatever language it is, like in Galician, no, there's no one here. Go on, piss off. So fishy boy exits, and then she calls Paul over, and she's clearly going to try and seduce him. And even though he's been beaten, chased, and terrified out of his wits, and he's lost his girlfriend, who's actually better looking than this girl, although she's very, very good looking as well. And he's gonna fall under her spell. Well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe she has put him in a trance. But anyway, they begin to, how was your father? Bit of, playing with the nodules. But when his hands come a bit further down, there's gills in her midriff. And then when the duvet is thrown back, it doesn't have legs. They're two great big flopping tentacles. Now, I know you can make a few jokes about the taste of fish, but we're not going there. No, we're not. And nor would you if you saw what her southern hemisphere looked like. So obviously he runs off and she's going, Paul. Or I think she actually calls him Pablo or Paolo at some point, because they will meet again. And she calls him back, come back. And but no, he's off, he's doing it. So he manages to escape. He gets in that car again and drives through a horde of villagers. But he's not going to make it too far. They're going to put a net over him, they're going to drag him off, club him, knock him unconscious, and throw him into this little hut. Yes, a hut. And or a little shed somewhere. And inside that shed is Barbara. Yeah, it's his girlfriend. She's not dead, she's there. And also the other girl there, Vicky, the one with her leg trapped. I'm saying Vicky, could be anything. But oh my God, what's happened to the leg that was trapped? The leg's gone. There's just a bloody stump now. But something far worse has happened to her as well, as she babbles that she has been impregnated by something down there in the black briny sea. Uh-oh. And she's, don't let it happen to me. But Barbara's saying, look, they took your leg off to save you and they gave you some heavy painkillers. So it's just a fantasy, it's just a dream that you've had. She's not having that. In this little hut as well, you've got Ezekiel, because he's been captured too. Anyway, all the villagers, led by the priest that they met initially in the church, with the webbed fingers, the one who said, oh, we're going to get a doctor and need the police and all that, like, liar. He leads the mob in there, so they're coming to get him. But straight away the door opens, Paul just goes, BAM! Right in his priest's face, whoa! And then there's a massive skirmish. Barbara does some amazing special forces moves. Bang, 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 and a big roundhouse kick. But it's not going to do him any good. Vicky also, tries to, because she gets a knife off one of them. She's got, when they get captured again, because their escape bid doesn't last for too long, and she gets the knife. No, you're not going to do this to me. I'm not giving birth to that. I'd rather die. And does a bit of shaken back and guts herself, oh dear, to put an end to what would happen. And then we move on to the film's most notorious scene, because Paul and Ezekiel get dragged off to that little hut where all the skinned bodies were, and they get chained up, and the priest unfurls his array of daggers, oh dear, and they cut into Ezekiel's face, I think they're reciting the Lord's Prayer as well, Paul and Ezekiel. And I tell you what, it's a really good effect. The CG in this film is not great, but it's only a quick flash in the pan, as it were. But when you see it, you go, oh dear. But it's not too bad, it doesn't take you out the movie. But the prosthetics are really good, and this sequence showcases it. They cut around his throat, they cut around his eyes, then they hook the fingers under his chin, and they just pull the face off him and right over the back of his head. And you're like, it's very red, it's very splashy, it's very nasty. And you're like, oh my God. And then I think they hack his back open as well. I think the Viking blood eagle thing, they take that off him as well. And then they're going to move on to Paul. But just as they're about to do Paul in and skin him, we get Uxia comes in again. Oh, tentacle legs comes in a little wheelchair and reveals just how powerful she is. No, he's mine. He's meant to be with me. He's part of destiny. You can't do that to him. He's mine. Leave him alone. Only she says all that in Spanish, so you could just get the hint. But Paul, who has been a bit of a nerd, a bit of a silly geeky boy throughout most of the movie, and very ineffectual, suddenly, okay, maybe he learned, he's got his chops back when he punched that priest in the face, but suddenly he makes a break for it, because obviously they're freeing him, gets the knives, kills the two hench fishmen, and then goes for the priest. Come on, motherfucker, you want to take my face? Come and get it then. And the priestess is like, oh shit. Paul gets him, does him in. And of course, then, where's Barbara? What's happened to Barbara? Well, we find out that Barbara is about to be sacrificed to Dagon in this great big stone well, huge big well. All the fish people are there. This is in the bowels of the church. All the fish people are there, and they're wearing all these skinned faces. Again, as I said about like the original Dagon, his acolytes wore fish masks. Well, in a kind of reverse of that, these people who are becoming fish are wearing human masks. And it's kind of like a nice little switch around. But and it's grisly as well. And they're cutting her up, putting like sort of effigies and symbols on her body, and she is naked throughout this. Then she's hoisted up and she's lowered down while they all chant all around, and Uxie in her wheelchair and a big spiky fish-like Neptune sort of headdress is doing all the incantations, and obviously they're trying to summon up Dagon, who's going to obviously impregnate her, because they lost out on Vicky, or whatever her name is. They've lost out on that one now, but they need new sacrifices. We've learned that there hasn't been one in over a year, so they know that it's slowing down their process of transformation. So, in the meantime, our hero, he's found some drums of kerosene or petrol or whatever. He's already used that, so he hasn't just stumbled on him. In one of the barns he was hiding in during the initial chase, he did find some of this stuff and did, with her lighter, set fire to it and made a getaway. So now he does it again. He's got a few of these drums. He gets in there. He finds the secret passageway down into the tunnel system, the labyrinth, and then just as she's going down into the water and they're all chanting, he just liberally sprays it round and immolates a good portion of the cult congregation. And if you look at that scene, there's quite a few people in full flame outs, all dancing around like that. And that's pretty dangerous, and they're in full body burns, and it's quite effective. And he manages to fight a few of these off, and he manages to put a wedge in the winch system, and he manages to bring her back up. But sadly, she's all covered in that black slime that we now know is synonymous of it's Dagon cum. That's what it is. You've been black slime, you're now impregnated. And she reiterates what she said to him a while ago when they learned initially about what was going on, when they're in the little barn and they found Vicky with her leg hacked off, claiming she was pregnant. Barbara had said to Paul, if it happens to me, promise me you'll kill me. So he's like, I know, but we can save you. And he's trying to pull her in like that. And then from down below, yeah, you guessed it, great big CGI Dagon comes flying up at this well, gets his tentacles round her, drags her down, and it looks like Paul is thinking of like leaping in after her when he suddenly sees that her two arms are still hanging there, ending in bloody stumps at the elbow because she's been wrenched away from this. Oh god. So she's gone. What's he going to do now? Well, Uxie and the few remaining cultists, including one who turns out, when he takes his mask off, to be the entire proper fish-headed, tentacle, almost Cthulhu-esque beast. He was the initial seafaring, salty old sea dog that went into the town way back to say, renounce God and Christ and follow Dagon instead. So, and it's a good effect. He looks a bit like the Ood from Doctor Who. Tentacles and stuff like. But then again, the Ood look very like Cthulhu anyway, so who ripped off who? And this film came out before Doctor Who, so there you go. But and it turns out that he is the father of Paul. This is a really stupid, hokey twist at the end, but if you've gone along with it so far, you've got to accept it. Not only is this guy Paul's father, and because obviously he had a dalliance with Paul's mother, but it just has come out of nowhere. But Uxie is also this guy's daughter with the fish tentacles, and she's the sister of Paul, and yet she wants incestuous sex with him so they can raise more Dagonites. And she says, this is why you dreamt of me. We're connected. this is your fate. There's nothing you can do about this. So Lord goes, well, we'll see about that. He's still got some petrol left, pours it over himself, gets that trusty lighter out again, rumph, up he goes. But as he's ablaze, you get Uxia leaps out of her little wheelchair, and in, I don't know, is it a bad CGI element, or is it just you're seeing the suit that she's wearing as well? It's hard to tell. And she runs across the floor with her human arms and her tentacle legs and a sort of scaly bum on the wiggle waggle, and takes him down, and the two of them plunge into the well, puts out his flames, and the two of them swim out of the well, and all of a sudden they're at that huge abyss-like portal which we saw initially at the start of the movie in his dream. And he begins to realise that he can breathe underwater. The strange marks we'd seen on his side earlier, which was kind of throwaway little visual aside, but they're gills as well. Now, even though his face is all burnt and there's all bits of skin flaking off him, like, he suddenly finds, hey, I can breathe underwater. A bit like Connor McLeod in Highlander. And he joins her, and the two of them go off swimming. Again, it's a distant sort of CG shot. They go swimming down into this lovely carved, fantastic looking abyss. And presumably to make lots of little Dagonites. And that's how the film ends. And folks, it's great. It is hokey as hell. Stuart Gordon, if you know Stuart Gordon's movies, they can be dark and very subversive. They can break a few taboos, but he has a really childlike sense of humour. And in this movie, that does not come through. That sequence in the hotel room where he's trying to make his escape and he's putting a little lock on is hysterical. Because it's so stupid. And then the way he's trying to fight through various rooms and doors, then leap through the window. It's just chaotic. And there's a reason for that. The guy that plays Paul, Ezra Gordon, is not the guy that Stuart Gordon wanted. Stuart Gordon wanted, of course, the stalwart of these movies, Jeffrey Combs. And he wanted Barbara Crampton as well. Reunite those stars from Reanimator and From Beyond, Brit and Castle Creek, put them into this movie. But they couldn't do it. So in the casting in LA initially, he found no one that suited him, because he was looking for someone that acted and looked like Jeffrey Combs. So he comes to London, and Ezra Gordon gets the shout, goes in, does an audition, and he does look like Jeffrey Combs. And the fact that what's her name? Oh God, Raquel Morono, who plays Barbara. Well, the fact that she's called Barbara is a callback to the fact that they wanted Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton. So there you go. But there's a lot of shots, annoying amount of shots actually, but there's a reason for it, of Paul Marsh's face, Ezra Gordon. Lots of him up close. He's staring at the camera, he's staring at everything. The camera zooms right in with these big hefty close-ups of his face for a huge portion of the early portion of the movie. It's annoying, it's actually a distraction, but there's a reason for it. Again, he's wearing glasses, his glasses are steamed up, his glasses are soaking wet with the rain. Everyone's forever soaking wet. This is the wettest film ever made. Forget Titanic, that's nothing. You know, that's like dry ice in the Sahara compared to this movie. But Ezra Gordon said, you know, I know how to play this character. Harold Lloyd. Stuart Gordon's like, what? Harold Lloyd? What would that be about? Harold Lloyd was one of the great stars of silent cinema. Pratfalls, amazing stunts. He was always playing a guy that got himself into such ridiculous scrapes. Famously, he's hanging off the clock on the skyscraper, and the hands are coming down. He's always walking in front of buildings which are going to collapse. Lots of things happen to him all the time, and he wears glasses, and you always see his face up close with panic on his face. That's what Ezra Gordon was doing with this. So that's why Stuart Gordon has the cinematography always focusing on Ezra Gordon's face. And the cinematography in the film is actually very, very good. I mean, they've got this superb location, albeit waterlogged and drenched, but it looks phenomenal. And the camera work is pretty damn good. So acting wise, yeah, Ezra Gordon's not bad. he starts off as a geek, and in the first few minutes, it's his girl, it's Barbara, who's the feisty one. And we've already learned that she can handle herself. She does in a fight sequence later on. But she's forceful. She takes his laptop, throws it in the water. She argues with him. She's the one that said, look, we'll get in the boat and we'll go to the land to get help for the others. And when it's actually a little motorboat, but when they hit a rock or something underneath, who knows what it is, and they begin to start taking on water, just right, get the paddlers out, but we need to lighten the load, get rid of that motor. She's the forceful one. She's always the one that makes the decisions. So she's actually a great foil for him, because he's the weakling who then learns that he has to fight. He's got to fight back. But the sense of humour, like with the hotel proprietor who's just staring for minutes on end, and you're like, can he actually break that stare? He's got to blink sometime, and none of these other people do blink. Yeah, it's great. And the clicking noises they make, and the strange gibbering and gibbous waterlogged sort of sounds and noises, it's very eerie and unsettling. But the script, there's a few gaffes in it, obviously. We're not talking very deep psychological horror. We're talking completely sort of splat-stick in-your-face horror with a lot of action. There's a very frantic pace to this movie. Once Paul gets back to the mainland and discovers that Barbara's not there, and he sees the townsfolk milling about in the square, from that point onwards, the film is at a breakneck pace, and it just doesn't stop, doesn't let up at all. You might have some hints of romance with Uxia, but that they're quickly curtailed by another battle with these fishy people, and another bit of flaying skin coming off. So you've got lots and lots of activity and action, and if it's a failing of the movie, that it is sometimes too breathless, perhaps. And that twist at the end, it really comes out of nowhere. That he's the son of this fishy priest, and Uxie is his sister. That it's a nice to have a twist at the end of a movie, which is going to pull the rug from under you, and it's perfectly in keeping with the likes of Lovecraft and Stuart Gordon. Again, as I said before, at best you can only break even in a Lovecraft story. You can't ever win. So although he's always had, there's two possibilities here, and obviously he thought, right, I'm going to burn myself, and then I've won. You won't have taken me, but he doesn't win. He gets dragged underwater, and then learns that, hang on, actually this ain't too bad. So he goes over to their side. Happy ending, perhaps, but it's a strange sort of finale, very fishy finale. But the beginning of the film, where you get to know Paul and Barbara, as I was trying to say before I distracted myself, it doesn't hang together well at all. This thing about them being millionaires, you don't need it. You just don't need any of that sort of story. They could just be on that boat. They don't need any kind of interplay. The sparky sort of bicker banter they have, and she's clearly the one who wears the trousers, although she's not wearing trousers. She's clearly the one in control in that relationship, and he is just like a loyal little lapdog, and he's meant to be the one who's made $1 million, So I don't know. But these are like very, very minor and small, misgivings. This film is a riotous roller coaster. Stuart Gordon stuff is always good fun. Always loved it. And there's another sort of strange moment where, because you've got laptops and cell phones, it's 2001, but they were still only relatively new then, weren't they? But they're not used as a great big, we've got a laptop here, and I've got a cell phone. I mean, they genuinely have a cell phone, or as we say in this country, a mobile phone, and they get on there and there's no signal. But that's what you do that right now in 2021, let alone 2001. But in one of the fight sequences, he's trying to make it to the car, and this, I think the driver with a big peg leg is battling him, and they've tumbled down these stone steps, which looks really painful. And he manages to get his cell phone out of his pocket, and he starts bashing this guy in the head, bang, 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 and then he thinks about it again, bang, and he says, I wish I had a bigger cell phone. Now, that is actually a real life incident which Stuart Gordon, when he talks about the film in the copious makings of and documentaries and interviews that he's given about it, Brian Usner and his wife were attacked by a gunman in Spain. And whilst Brian Usner began to battle him on the street, his wife pulled out her cell phone and began to batter this gunman. And they did beat him on the head with a cell phone. And she actually said, "I wish I had a bigger cell phone." So that line in the movie, it might seem slightly, incongruous in that, like, it's actually, there's a real life basis for it. That's good. I'm a big fan of this movie. I love many H.P. Lovecraft films. There's an argument that Brian Usner and Stuart Gordon, when they embrace Lovecraft, they go too far. They show way too much gore. I mean, Lovecraft was great at describing the Old Ones and these frightening sights and visions, but really, people descended into madness and psychosis, very often killing themselves or just going completely insane. But actual deaths and bodily corruption, apart from like the likes of the denizens of Innsmouth itself, which this film is based on that story, he kind of shied away from that sort of thing, whereas Stuart Gordon ladles the gore all across the screen. So, and I like that. It works. There's room for it too. So, folks, Dagon. It's here. There's the Blu-ray of it, and I think this is a German copy of this is the German copy, because the film did not get released properly at all. A budget of €4 million, not a vast budget by anyone's standards. Although the film does look really good apart from the CG, the basis of having a great location to shoot in. But the film received only a very spotty theatrical release, so no one really got to see it. And then I think it played on a few cable TV networks. And then that was it. And in this country, you can't get this film at all. You've got to import it. Well, I mean, there's people who get it for you the next day. I mean, I bought mine from Amazon. And it came from Germany and was here the next day. So, don't worry about that. It doesn't take too long. But it just shows you there's a complete lack of respect for this movie. Although, I'm saying that not many people know the film. Pretty much everyone I know that does know the film actually really rates it. So there you go. Don't just take my recommendation. If you can get hold of a copy, do so. It's well worth it. It is very, very wet. It's silly in places, but it's tongue-in-cheek, and I like that. I think that's part of its charm. And if you look at Reanimated and Bride of Reanimator and From Beyond, they're also very, very funny movies. The high fantasy, eroticism, splat, and horror and terror and suspense is massively intermingled with, flippant stupidity and, a bit of splatstick. And I think it works. It was his winning formula. I mean, debatably, the sense of humour was lacking from the likes of Castle Creek. And in my opinion, Castle Creek suffered because of that. But most of his other movies seem to have this element, which was a glorious, gory, yet giddy sort of roller coaster ride. They were meant to be fun, but they were fun for adults, So, anyway, folks, there you go. Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft, Stuart Gordon. Awesome stuff. Would it have been better with Jeffrey Combs in it? Yeah, it would. It would be better, admittedly. But Ezra Gordon does a good enough job of acting the buffoon, of going through all the pratfalls and the Harold Lloyd sort of elements. He makes it work. He does bring something to it, which Coombs wouldn't have done. Coombs would have done it a different way. But clearly, when you watch the film, you can see that Jeffrey Combs was meant to be there in that role. Anyway, folks. Oh, just thought as well, if Barbara Crampton had been in that final nude scene of Barbara being lowered nude and striated with fetching little gory slices into the well. Yeah. Anyway, folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man at your services. So please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and just, you know, have some fish and chips. Why not, eh? I'm going to see you all later.